lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
From the Dignity Health Studio at the Bakersfield Californian, this is Strictly Business, presented by the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. Sponsored in part by the law offices of Young Wooldridge, San Joaquin Community Hospital, Hydrogen Energy California, and Chevron. And now, here's your host, Cindy Pollard, President and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to continue our month-long series on New Year's resolutions for your business. We will be joined a little bit later in the show by Jeff King from Barbich, Hooper, King, Dill Hoffman Accountancy Corporation to discuss financial planning for your business. And later in the show, Jimmy Phillips, Director of Marketing and Communications at San Joaquin Community Hospital, will join us to talk about our Body Mass Index, or the BMI, how it relates to lost work days, and what you as an employer can do to cut your costs. But first, let's take an opening glance at some news you can use. Here's good news if you're planning to start a business this year. The State Board has ended its business deposit program. New business owners are no longer required to replace a security deposit with the State Board of Equalization. Previously, most new businesses were required to pay the deposit to protect the state in the event the new business did not pay its taxes. And depending on the size of your new business, your deposit could have ranged from $2,000 to $50,000. Business and taxpayer groups had called the deposit requirement yet another barrier to economic development in the state. The State Board of Equalization will begin returning deposits to existing businesses next month. They currently have on hand about $300 million that had been collected from those deposits. The San Joaquin Valley Business Conditions Index, produced by Fresno State's Craig School of Business, rose to nearly 53% last month after it had dipped to just under 49% in November. An index greater than 50 indicates a growing economy over the next 3 to 6 months, so that's great news. It was the 12th time in 13 months that the index was at 50 or higher. According to the index, companies in wholesale trade, food processing, business services, and construction showed expanding economic activity. The index is based on a survey of company purchasing executives in Fresno, Madera, Kings, and Tulare counties and measures such factors as employment, wholesale prices, business confidence, inventory, imports, exports, new sales orders, and then the delivery and lead time. The race for the 16th Senate District seat, soon to become the 14th Senate seat, is heating up. Another Democratic candidate has emerged as Richard Valle, Kings County Supervisor, joins fellow Democrat Luis Chavez out of Fresno and Republican Senator Andy Vidak in the run for the seat. Because of the top two candidates' open primary act that was passed by the voters in 2011, the top two vote getters in the June primary will face each other in the general election in November. The Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce PAC, or the Political Action Committee, and other chamber PACs throughout the valley will be watching this race closely and weighing in to ensure that the best person for business is sent to Sacramento. Senate Democrats have introduced a bill to bar employers from using credit checks. Lawmakers say the practice contributes to long-term unemployment and disproportionately affects women and minorities whose credit was damaged during the financial crisis. The bill, which exempts jobs that require a national security clearance, aims to stop employers from disqualifying would-be hires based on poor credit. Companies can legally check a credit history under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. However, it requires a job applicant's consent to do so. 47% of employers say that they use credit checks in their hiring decisions, according to a 2012 survey by the Society for Human Resource Management. Preschool for All could be making its way to California. The California legislature will take up the national issue of Preschool for All 4-year-olds during this session with hopes of enrolling more children from immigrant and low-income families. The program would be voluntary, just as kindergarten currently is in California. It would phase in over 5 years beginning in the 2015-2016 school year and could cost the state $1 billion annually when fully implemented, adding an estimated 350,000 children to public schools. Proponents argue that those costs would be offset by savings later on. They point to studies showing that preschool prepares children for school, resulting in fewer being held back to repeat a year, lower numbers in costly special education classes, and fewer students failing in school and ending up in prison. The state already funds preschool for some 4-year-olds, those that just missed the cutoff date, but Senate Bill 837 would order school districts and charter schools to make that class, known as transitional kindergarten, available to all 4-year-olds. Studies have shown that kids who start kindergarten without any school experience generally lag behind their peers both academically and socially. If the bill passes, California would join only a handful of states, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Florida, with universal preschool. We know that a well-educated workforce is the key to business success, and joining me on the phone right now is Jamie Henderson, Executive Director at First 5 Kern, former educator and school administrator. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Cindy.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us this morning. Why is preschool education so important?
Well, Cindy, as I was listening to you, you hit right on it. Nothing succeeds like success, and that initial success is so important. Years of research show that students that get off on the right foot and are successful early on in their schooling careers tend to be successful later on. And so it just makes perfect sense that we take a look at this preschool issue. But there are some alternatives because, as you also mentioned, $1 billion to the state of California is a lot of money, and we're just coming out of a horrible recession, and particularly schools were hit real hard. So I think we need to look at the issue of preschool. I don't think we disagree the importance of preschool, but how we get there is as important.
Absolutely. And if the bill passes, what will it mean to California children? I mean, you talked about it giving them a head start, ensuring them for success later on. What will it mean to California children and families if it does pass?
I think the best thing that California ever did in the 38 years that I was in public education before coming to First 5, the absolute best thing that I think this state ever did was Joe Simidian's bill that rolled back the start date for kindergarten to September 1st. It used to be December 2nd. And you ask any kindergarten teacher, there's a huge difference between a 5-year-old in kindergarten and a 4-year-old. So that was critical. But the reason why it took so long to get that passed was, what do you do with those students that were born after September up to December? And that's where transitional kindergarten came from. So now going forward, as the rollback date continues, and by this year it'll be September 1st, what are you going to do with those students? And I think the legislature is feeling some pressure from a variety of groups that you can't just have those students hanging out there. So they want to extend transitional kindergarten to all 4-year-olds. Now, I don't think it's a bad idea, but two critical questions. Number one, how do you fund it? And not just how do you fund it for this upcoming year, how do you fund it going forward? And secondly, if that program is not a quality, best practice program and monitored closely, then you've wasted that money.
Absolutely. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be keeping an eye on that particular bill, and we'll keep you posted because, as we know, an educated workforce is good for business. Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Cindy.
New year and lots of new laws affecting business. Nearly 40 new employment laws hit the books for 2014, many of them taking effect January 1st. That's right, nearly 40 new laws that will have an impact on business. Some of them make significant changes in key areas, such as the new minimum wage, new protections for immigrants, and extended leaves of absences. Other new laws make small changes to different parts of existing law or relate to specific industries, such as garment manufacturers or the car wash industry. The new laws cover wage and hour, discrimination and retaliation protections, immigration protections, a driver's license for undocumented immigrants, and leaves and benefits. If you're interested in learning more about the new laws and what you need to do to keep your business in compliance, you might want to attend the Chamber's Labor and Employment Law Forum coming up tomorrow. We'll have more information on that at the closing bell. A recent small business study ranks California dead last. The Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council ranked California 50th when measuring state policy measures on small business. South Dakota was ranked number 1, Arizona 13th, Nevada second. Of course, our surrounding states are ranking better than California, which explains why sometimes businesses leave here for those other states. It ranked the 50 states according to 47 different policy measures, including a wide array of tax, regulatory, and government spending measurements. California has the highest personal income tax, capital gains tax rate, and gas tax. The state was ranked 28th in property tax as a share of personal income and 26th in sales, gross receipts, and excise taxes as a share of personal income. California ranked low in electric utility costs, workers' compensation costs, per capita state and local government debt, and in highway cost effectiveness. You can read the full report from the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council at sbecouncil.org. Are you a small business owner with an amazing success story, or do you know of someone who has a success story? The Small Business Administration is accepting online nominations for the 2014 National Small Business Week Awards, and the deadline is fast approaching. The awards recognize the outstanding achievements of America's small businesses for their contributions in their local communities and to our nation's economy. Nominations are being accepted in several different categories, including Small Business Person of the Year. Winners will be announced during National Small Business Week, which takes place May 12th through the 16th. The deadline for nominating yourself or someone else is January 16th. You can get more information or submit your nomination online at nationalsmallbusinessweek.sba.gov. Automakers ended 2013 with a roar, and that roar that they heard was the sound of cars and trucks driving off the lot. Car dealers sold about 1.4 million cars in December, according to preliminary estimates. Sales were up at Ford and Chrysler, down at GM and Toyota. Ford reported a 2% increase in December sales, an 11% increase on the year. I'm joined in the studio by Joe Hay, Vice President at Jim Burke Ford Lincoln Jaguar, a local dealership here in Bakersfield. Welcome, Joe.
Good morning, Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So how are the auto sales trending locally?
You know, they've been trending up for the last couple of years, and 2013 was no exception. At Jim Burke, we were actually up 20% in December over prior year and 27% on the year. So we've been beating how the rest of Southern California is doing, and it's been great to see the business come back.
That's fantastic. I know that you all are extraordinary in your customer service, so I would imagine that is helping sales as well.
Yeah, it's been a fun process. You know, the auto business took a big hit when the recession came along, and it was the same in Bakersfield as it was across the country. But we're back to where we were before the recession and gas prices struck, and we hope it stays that way for some time.
So aside from the lower gas prices, what do you attribute your success to?
You know, it's really a combination of things. Part of it is definitely pent-up demand. The industry is back to selling 16 million vehicles a year now, where it had dipped down to 10 million just 3 years ago. But another part of our success, partly as well as customer satisfaction, is the fact that Ford right now today has a fantastic product lineup. We've always been known for trucks and for sports cars like the Mustang, but if you take a look at our entire lineup today, it's competitive in every single segment, and it's been a fun time to be in the business.
That's fantastic. So what's the impact on the local economy in terms of sales tax and jobs created?
Sure, that's a great question. You know, sales tax is a big contributor back to the economy. We did $100 million last year in vehicle sales, so 7.5% of that, $7.5 million, and that comes right back here to Kern County. The impact on jobs is also significant. We've been growing since the recession. We're back to about 275 jobs for our company here in Bakersfield, and we continue to add at sales, especially jobs, as we try to keep pace with where the business has been. Another thing, as you know, that we've been working on is remodeling to our showroom downtown,
right.
That's it hasn't contributed directly to auto jobs, but we've spent about almost $1 million this year bringing that showroom up to Ford's current look, and it's provided a lot of jobs for local tradesmen.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Certainly, Cindy.
You've been watching Strictly Business. I'm Cindy Pollard with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Business exposure.
Connections with other businesses.
You want to make a difference in the community?
Credibility of membership.
Civic responsibility.
Business advocacy.
Leads generation.
Various benefits and services.
Seminars and workshops.
Participate on chamber committees.
And you can have it all with your membership in the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield, California. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
In today's world, you need help protecting what's important. Whether your family, your home, your business, or even your assets, Young Wooldridge is your trusted partner and advocate. For more than 70 years, the attorneys at Young Wooldridge have worked steadily, tirelessly, and faithfully, whether you're building your business or rebuilding your life. The law offices at Young Wooldridge. Our lights are always on, so when you need us, we'll be there for you.
This is Strictly Business, presented by the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. Sponsored in part by the law offices of Young Wooldridge, San Joaquin Community Hospital, Hydrogen Energy California, and Chevron. And now, here's your host, Cindy Pollard, President and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. We're going to now take a look at a business roundup and a topic really important to business. Every year, nearly half of all Americans will make a New Year's resolution, most of them having to do with changes or improvements that we want to make in our personal lives. But what about our businesses? As business owners and managers, we want our businesses to thrive. And with a little bit of planning, you can be on your way to growth. Last week, we took a look at strategic planning and shared some great tips to help you conduct a strategic planning session for your company. Today, in the studio, we have CPA Jeff King, a partner with Barbich, Hooper, King, Dill, Hoffman Accountancy Corporation, to give us some sound financial advice for business. Jeff has been in practice for almost 40 years, providing auditing, tax, and consulting services to his clients. Jeff, welcome and good morning.
Good morning, Cindy. It's nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
You betcha. My pleasure.
So, after nearly 40 years in business, I would imagine you have seen your share of financial disasters and maybe some financial missteps that some business owners make. What are some of those that you've seen?
Well, I think, the primary problems that we've seen have typically been either people overextending themselves, maybe not knowing the market that they were in, or the fact that circumstances change. And I think with any business, you really need to be paying attention to the environment and the economy, and be able to basically adjust. Having part of a plan to go through, you need to be flexible, and you need to be able to change and kind of roll with the punches.
Right. So you talk about being flexible and managing some of the financial challenges. What are some of the other financial challenges that you see companies facing, and what's the best way to avoid those types of problems?
Well, I think really when you look at businesses, you need to have a plan, and a lot of times people go on with a plan kind of in their head, and they can execute those plans. But really, having a written plan, a business plan, and then going through doing budgeting for both your operations and the capital side, because you need to know what kind of resources you're going to need to have to basically operate your business. And and that would also lead into the cash flow side of it. Sales projections, marketing projections as well. So, I mean, you have to have a feel for what your business is going to do, but the financial aspects really is going to be the most critical.
Absolutely. Now, you talk about the importance of planning, and you mentioned cash flow projections. And I know one of the important parts of a plan is your marketing and sales projections, which flow from the cash flow, or excuse me, your cash flow will be based on that. What are the key elements of your cash flow plan? What do you recommend that your clients include?
Well, they're going to need to go through and, I mean, they're going to hopefully know their market, know their business, and they're going to have to go through and break that down pretty much on a monthly basis. And so, okay, here's the expectation of what we're going to have sales-wide. And then the other aspect is that, okay, you sell something. Are they selling on cash, credit cards, or are they going to have accounts receivable? You're going to have to plug all that in there and realize that if you have open accounts receivable, those aren't collected right away, and that will impact your cash flow as you go down the road. That would, and in order to operate, you may not have enough capital to put into the business originally. So, are you going to the bank for financing? So, you're going to want to measure what your cash flow is going to be so that you can determine the fact that you will have the proper financial resources to conduct your business, to make payroll and to take care of all the things that you need to do.
Okay. And what else, what other types of plans, excuse me, what other types of plans are important to provide that financial foundation?
Well, I think that, as far as, moving forward, you really need to have some ideas in terms of your organization, who's going to do what, who are your key people, who's going to be important in helping you, your business success. A lot of businesses may be a one or two man show, but on the other hand, you may have a team, and you need to develop that team, and you need to determine who's going to do what and who's going to be responsible for what.
And who are those key players on your team?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's going to be the internal people that you're going to have. The other aspect is that you should probably have a good attorney. You should probably have a good accountant, CPA. You probably will want to have a good banker, somebody who will work with you to help you with your cash flow needs and your business financing. The other aspect is that there may be regulatory issues that you have. You may want to have specialists relative to helping you address regulatory. And you mentioned earlier your human resources. That's going to be a critical aspect because there are a lot of specific regulations and rules relative to having employees and what you have to do and what you have to provide. So, in any event, those are just to name a few.
Right, and regulatory constraints can really be costly. I mean, if you happen to have some type of a violation, I mean, we're talking, as small as hundreds of dollars, but you generally don't see them in that range to as high as, tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what that regulatory violation is.
That's very true. I mean, a lot of the penalties have become very punitive, and regardless of how hard you try to comply and do the things that you need to do, oftentimes it doesn't make a difference how hard you try. I mean, they're going to come through and fine you and penalize you.
Ooh, and it hurts. Yes. Now, you talk about having your plans in place, and you talk about the people and the important folks both internally as well as externally. What other team resources should businesses consider having as a part of their plan?
Well, you need to, when you go through and you do all your work, you've done your sales, you've written your checks, done all those things, you need to have a way to account for that and to measure your success. And generally, the best thing to have is that you want to have a good functional accounting system. You want to have somebody there that can help you operate that functional accounting system. If you aren't able to measure what you're doing, you really are going to have a tough time determining whether you're being successful or not.
Absolutely.
So consequently, you want to have a good accounting system. You want to have built-in good internal controls, and realizing that businesses come from different sizes. You may have a small mom and pop shop to very big companies. You still need to have controls in place. You need to have a good accounting system in place, and you need to have somebody to help you get there. If you can't do it internally, then that's where maybe your accountant might come into play to help you do that, or somebody else.
Right. When I had my public relations firm, I had someone internally who ran the accounting and did our payroll, and we used QuickBooks Pro, yes. I believe it was, to do that. I then had a bookkeeper who was outside, and then also had an outside accounting firm. So we had checks and balances in every step of the way. And that's really important. And we were a very small business.
Yes. And you know, QuickBooks is a great program, but it does have limitations. It tends to be very, very flexible, and it tends to allow you to do a lot of things that maybe you don't want to do. So that's where your checks and balances, your internal controls. You know, one of the things that we always like, particularly with a lot of the small businesses that we deal with, when the bank statement comes in, we'd like to see the owners or a very high responsible employee review those before they go to the person that's going to do the bank reconciliation or that may be doing the financial statements. That way you have a layer. Somebody can go through and review that information to make sure something untoward has not occurred.
That's right. I reviewed all of the bank statements, signed all of the checks, and that was another check and balance. Now, you mentioned QuickBooks Pro is a good program. What are some of the other accounting software?
You know, Microsoft has a number of different programs. I'm not sure that I could remember all, but you know, I think they have. There's Peachtree. There's, gosh, I'm trying to think of some of the various programs.
Well, it sounds like there are a lot out there. So,
and there are a lot of programs that are proprietary in nature for specific industries that, you know, they may not fit your business, but they may fit a specialized industry. So,
right.
So there are a lot of products out there.
Terrific. Thank you. Now, how important are regular audits to your company on your financials?
Well, for a lot of, you know, it really depends on first of all, what the owner wants, what their bank wants, and depending upon the size. In our business, we have 3 different types of services, an audit being the top service. And generally, those firms or companies that have credit borrowings in excess of certain amounts, the bank's going to require them to have an audit. An audit basically goes through and does an evaluation on the internal controls and really gets into the nuts and bolts and gets very granular. There's also a review that is less than going to that extreme, and then there's a compilation where the accountant just goes through and puts the information together in basically a financial format. But some type of reporting exterior is always helpful and beneficial.
Right. Okay. Now, you've given a lot of suggestions, and I can imagine for a small business, it is a lot of work, and it may sound a little daunting. What's the best way for, say, a small business to go about accomplishing this type of planning and financial housekeeping? You talked about, you know, a team of experts.
I think really engaging with a good CPA, somebody that they know and trust. They will be able to sit down and guide them to not only look at the financial aspects, but look at the tax aspects that impact their business. They can give them a lot of good recommendations, and some firms provide a lot of different other resources other than just tax advice.
Right.
I mean, you know, our firm, we're pretty much a full-service firm to where we can come in and help you do the accounting and bookkeeping. But there are other alternatives as well. So, I mean, there are lots of options for small businesses.
That's great. So once the plan is in place, you talked about earlier wanting to know when you're successful. So once the plan is in place, how do you ensure success?
Well, you have to execute the plan, and you have to be willing to change that plan as you find that the circumstances and the business environment change. But you've put together a plan, go through, execute it, and then come back through and measure to see how you're doing and then adjust accordingly.
Great. Jeff, thank you so much for being here today. You've been talking to Jeff King, who is a partner with nearly 40 years of experience with Barbich, Hooper, King, Dill, Hoffman Accountancy Corporation. And they are a local firm. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a minute. You've been watching Strictly Business. I'm Cindy Pollard with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Business exposure.
Connections with other businesses.
You want to make a difference in the community?
Credibility of membership.
Civic responsibility.
Business advocacy.
Leads generation.
Various benefits and services.
Seminars and workshops.
Participate on chamber committees.
And you can have it all with your membership in the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Current Business Journal contains news and information from local business leaders and organizations. Topics include agriculture, health and medical, energy, real estate, and more. Visit KernBusinessJournal.com to find out how to subscribe or where to pick up a free copy. To inquire about advertising in the Bi-Monthly Business Journal, call 395-7586. Find us online on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on KernBusinessJournal.com.
Hydrogen Energy California, a clean and reliable alternative energy solution, is proud to sponsor this program. Located in western Kern County, HECA will create thousands of construction jobs and at least 200 full-time positions. That translates into $52 million in annual labor income and at least $239 million in annual economic impact to Kern County. To learn more about HECA's commitment to the vitality of our business community, visit hydrogenenergycalifornia.com.
This is Strictly Business, presented by the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. Sponsored in part by the law offices of Young Wooldridge, San Joaquin Community Hospital, Hydrogen Energy California, and Chevron. And now, here's your host, Cindy Pollard, President and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. This Spotlight on Business is brought to you by San Joaquin Community Hospital. We now have in our studio Jimmy Phillips, who's the Director of Marketing and Communications for San Joaquin Community Hospital, and he's going to talk to us about how poor lifestyle habits affect the rising cost of healthcare. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thanks, Cindy. Great to be here this morning.
Well, it's great to have you. I was looking over some information, and there was a study in 2007 that said 16% or $2.2 trillion of the U.S. GDP was spent on healthcare. That's more than any other first world country. And that same study showed us that the United States averaged over $7,000 per capita, close to twice the amount spent by most first world countries.
Yes, indeed.
How did we get to this point?
I mean, no matter what your political beliefs are, I think it's fair to say that healthcare in our country has had many issues, to put it kindly, for a number of years. And, say what you want about the Affordable Care Act, but one of the main things that it can accomplish in its ideal state is getting people access to the right care at the right point in time. One of the things that we see happen, particularly in the hospital setting, is people without insurance using an ER, for example, as both their primary care service and for critical care. That backs up the ED, raises costs for everyone else.
So what is it that's driving people to have to seek this care and to seek the hospitals? I know we've watched the evolution of American lifestyle, and it hasn't always been good.
I think there's a number of things, but there's no doubt that our lifestyle, and particularly obesity, is at the heart of the issue there. Just kind of a crazy stat for you. In 1990, no state in the United States had more than a 14% obesity rate. In 2010, every state had more than a 14% obesity rate, and 6 states had more than a 30% obesity rate.
So obesity has really changed the landscape out there in a big way.
Absolutely. I think it's altered the course of this country, and it's driven up costs for healthy and sick people alike.
My goodness. So tell us about how it's affecting businesses, both in terms of lost work days and increased costs.
I don't think employers think about these kinds of things a lot, but if you take body mass index, for example, and it's worth pointing out that BMI is not the perfect measurement of obesity because it just takes a height-weight ratio and tells you what your ratio is based on your height and your weight. So an NFL linebacker who's literally all muscle would be considered obese by BMI standards. But it does kind of give a clue about a person's lifestyle. So assume you have 100 full-time employees in your organization. If you had all of them with a 40 or more BMI, you would lose 184 days of year of work from those employees on average. Now let's take employees, the same group of 100, and say that they had less than 25 on their BMI. That same group would lose only 12 days of work on average. So employees that have more than a 40 BMI are 7 to 10 times more likely to miss more days of work than those who do not.
Wow. So how can we get our BMI tested or determined?
Well, definitely the place to start is your primary care physician.
Okay.
There's a number of different weight loss options. We have a wellness center at
Mm-hmm.
San Joaquin Community Hospital that provides weight loss services and diabetes education and lots of different things that certainly are linked with weight issues. But definitely people should start with their primary care physician.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier that BMI might not be the ideal way to measure, but it's a starting point. It's a guide.
Definitely.
What are some of the factors that impact your BMI?
I think definitely lifestyle factors. This sounds like common sense, but, the way you eat, how much you exercise, especially for business community folks who may be behind a desk all day, maybe working, 70-hour weeks sometimes, it can just be hard to find time to exercise. It can be hard to find time to pack your lunch, for example, which we know is on average, a healthier way to eat than eating out every meal. Those things can certainly be challenging.
Right. So is there an ideal BMI?
It depends on your height.
Okay.
So I think that number 25 is a great goal, because that's kind of the number that if you're below that, you're at the lowest end of losing days of work. So I believe that the different ranges are up to 25, between 25 and 40, and then 40 and over is clearly an obese person.
Okay.
So you want to aim to be in that 23, 24 range or so.
Okay, so time to pull out the tennis shoes, the walking shoes.
Definitely.
And get to work,
Yep.
both for our own health. Now, people don't generally call in sick and say, I'm obese, I'm not coming to work.
Right.
Yet the symptoms or the effects of obesity manifest themselves in different ways. What are some of the things tied to obesity which might result in a sick call?
Well, I think, an interesting stat on that, and this isn't, exclusive to obesity, but if you look at the Medicare pool of recipients in our country, 23% make up 68% of the costs.
Wow.
So, and the assumption there is that there is certainly lifestyle things creating conditions where there's, a person who has multiple sicknesses or illnesses at the same time.
Right.
And we know that there's a clear link between both acute chronic diseases like diabetes, but also life-threatening illnesses in the short term like heart disease and stroke.
Right.
So obesity can lead to both, the day-to-day illnesses, but it can also be life-threatening at any point in time.
Right. Also back problems.
Definitely.
An employee may not call in sick obesity, but if they are overweight, could potentially have back problems that, flare up from time to time.
Yeah,
that
knee problems, foot problems, because just
Right.
from a common sense standpoint, you're supporting more. And
Absolutely.
it can have collateral damage, if you will.
Absolutely. So what are some things that employers can do to help lower their own healthcare costs relative to a healthy workforce?
Well, I think some trends that we're seeing, particularly in the healthcare industry, is simply asking employees to be their own advocate and to know what their numbers are. I mean, if you went up to an average person on the street, most people probably couldn't tell you their BMI, let alone their healthy cholesterol and unhealthy cholesterol and their blood pressure, etc.
Well, no offense, Jimmy, but if you asked me my BMI, I like you, but I probably wouldn't tell you what it is, even if I knew.
None taken. I think most people fall into that category, definitely. At San Joaquin Community Hospital, one of the things that our parent company, Adventist Health, has done is create an engaged plan. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's employees being engaged in their own health. So we don't lower premiums based on if you're healthy or not, but as part of being in an engaged health plan, employees are required to do a certain number of tests throughout the year that give them their numbers, and they have one-on-one consultations to see if there's lifestyle trends they need to reverse. So that's one thing that we're doing right now is just, asking employees to be their own advocates and to be engaged in their own health. Certainly, employers have incentives to drive down health costs for their employees because that's money in the bank.
Absolutely. So how is this new wellness program being received by your coworkers there at the hospital?
It's pretty amazing. System-wide in Adventist Health, we're a 19-hospital system on the West Coast here. And there's our engaged plan, which, again, requires employees to do, and their spouses, by the way. If their spouses want to be involved, they have to go and do all of the same tests, but it requires them to, do these different tests and things throughout the year. Our base plan is your traditional health insurance, and it has a little bit of a higher monthly premium. Across our system, 97% of employees chose the engaged plan in the first year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I know that the Adventist Health team up in our headquarters in Roseville and even down to the hospital level, we're just ecstatic about that because it shows that, people want to know and they want to be healthier and be healthier for their employers.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, the engaged plan provides a survey of health, and there's an opportunity for employees to then talk to a trained professional in a number of areas.
So once a year, we have a group that comes in and does all of these tests for the employees right on campus there. And then they are able to sit down right there with a trained health professional to discuss their results and things they might be able to do to work on some of the areas they need to improve in.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So we have just a minute or two to wrap up here. So what are maybe some fitness or nutrition tips that you could pass on that all of us could use to begin to lower our BMI? That's if we're in the category where it needs to be lowered. So what would you recommend we do?
I think what's really cool is that you don't have to be, a gym rat to be healthy. We have a lady who every day I see doing laps around the hospital campus on her 15-minute break. She's not exercising for long amounts of time, but she's doing it consistently and something that's right there in her workplace. At the hospital, we have stairs. And so you'll see a lot of employees choose to take the stairs 4 flights a day. If you're doing that multiple times a day, that can be a couple hundred calories, and that's a big difference.
Absolutely.
So I think looking for things that you can do within your own workplace, within your own home, maybe while you're watching TV, get on that elliptical machine or whatnot. Try to multitask and do multiple things at once if you don't have set aside time to go to the gym.
That's great. And nutrition and eating habits?
Yeah, I think, again, I talked about earlier, our wellness director at the hospital always talks about people who pack their own lunch versus eating out every day. Now, eating out does not necessarily mean you have to eat unhealthy, but you're definitely more prone to. You're not in control completely of the situation. So I think packing your own lunch is a great way to stay healthy. But something else that our dietitians at the hospital talk about is shopping the edges of the grocery store. Think about it. If you go to the grocery store, all the processed, frozen food with ingredients you've never heard of is in the middle of the store. If you go around the edges, that's your fresh meats, your fresh veggies, fresh fruits, fresh breads, and those kinds of things. So I think that's a useful tip that most people, probably don't realize.
That's great. So shop the outer aisles of the supermarket and pack your own lunch and build and exercise whenever you can.
It's a start.
It's a start. Great advice. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're watching Strictly Business. I'm Cindy Pollard with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. We'll be right back after this break.
Business exposure.
Connections with other businesses.
You want to make a difference in the community?
Credibility of membership.
Civic responsibility.
Business advocacy.
Leads generation.
Various benefits and services.
Seminars and workshops.
Participate on chamber committees.
And you can have it all with your membership in the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Introducing TBC Mobile from the Bakersfield Californian. The most complete news, sports, weather, video, opinion, and lifestyle coverage in Bakersfield and Kern County. It's the easiest way to stay up to date on all things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
This is an RC robotic claw.
A high school science teacher made me what I am today.
Our science teacher helped us build it.
Now I'm a geologist at Chevron, and I get to help science teachers.
It has 4 servo motors and a wireless microcontroller.
Over the last 3 years, we've put nearly $100 million into American education. That's thousands of kids learning to love science.
Isn't that cool?
That's pretty cool.
This is Strictly Business, presented by the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. Sponsored in part by the law offices of Young Wooldridge, San Joaquin Community Hospital, Hydrogen Energy California, and Chevron. And now, here's your host, Cindy Pollard, President and CEO of the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome back. We are now heading into the closing bell, where we'll present to you programs, trainings, events, meetings taking place here in Bakersfield and around the Central Valley that you'll want to attend. The Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce is hosting its quarterly membership meeting Tuesday, January 14th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Bakersfield Senior Center located at 530 4th Street. For more information, contact the Black Chamber at area code 661-326-1529. And First 5 Kern is looking for a new executive director. You heard earlier in the show, we interviewed Jamie Henderson. He is going to retire, so they're looking for his replacement. Applications, your resume, and 3 letters of reference must be received by the First 5 Kern office by Friday, January 31st at noon. For more information on that position, you can log on to their website at first5kern.org. The Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce is partnering with the Bakersfield Association of Realtors and the Kern Taxpayers Association to host a candidate training academy. This is for folks who think they want to run for public office soon or maybe considering it. It'll give you great insight into the process and what it's all about. The Training Academy will take place Saturday, February 1st from 8 to 5 at the Bakersfield Association of Realtors. The cost is $25 to cover the cost of materials for the workshop. Applications can be submitted to the Board of Realtors and are due by Friday, January 24th. For more information, contact Donna Carpenter at area code 665-2300 or email her at dcarpenter@bakersfieldrealtor.org. Those applications are also available at the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce, Kern Taxpayers Association, and the Board of Realtors. The Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce has a couple of upcoming events, and for more on those, we're going to swing on over to Lauren Smoot, Manager of Marketing and Communications at the Chamber News Desk. Good morning, Lauren. What do you have for us today?
Good morning. You've probably heard about nearly 40 new laws that are coming to the books this year. And so tomorrow, the Chamber is going to be hosting a labor and employment law update with attorney Daniel Klingenberger from Dowling Aaron Incorporated. He's going to help businesses stay up to date and current on the new compliances, as well as keep all businesses informed of what they need to do new for this year. So tomorrow, Tuesday, January 14th, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be free for Chamber members and $40 for non-members. Go ahead and call the Chamber, 327-4421, or visit our website to sign up. Also regarding employment laws, we have the 2014 employment posters at the Chamber. If you're an employer, you're required by law to post these updated employment posters in your office. If you don't, you could be fined up to $17,000. We have English and Spanish posters available. Employees who do speak Spanish are required to have a Spanish poster in the office. You can visit our website, bakersfieldchamber.org, or again, call us at 327-4421. Posters are $32 plus tax. And last but not least, we have a social media therapy session coming up this month, Wednesday, January 29th, from noon to 1 p.m. Juanita Webb from PAS Associates and Micah Nielsen from Dowling Aaron Incorporated is going to teach us all that you need to know regarding social media and your offices, as well as getting your employment notice and or handbook up to date. This event will be at the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce, $30 for chamber members and $60 for non-members. Sign up on our website. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. The Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce is hosting its annual gala and installation dinner. That's taking place next Thursday, January 23rd at 5:30 at the DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel. The cost is $75 per person, $850 for a table of 10. Our entertainment is going to be comedian Don Friesen, who is just hilarious. And he does spoofs on his life as a suburban husband and father, and takes a really interesting look at the world of business. For more information or to reserve your spot, contact the Chamber at 327-4421, or you can register online at bakersfieldchamber.org. And joining me in the studio is Danny Ortiz, who is a principal at Ortiz Melby Architects. And Danny is going to be sworn in as the chairman of the board for the 2014 Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Welcome, Danny.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And congratulations on being sworn in next week as our new chairman of the board.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I am really looking forward to it. Now, this is your second term on the board. You're currently in your second term, 2 3-year terms. Why did you join the Chamber of Commerce, and why did you want to serve on the board?
Well, we've been as a member. Our company's been a member for several years, and we've always felt that it was important for our membership and for us to support the community. As far as the board, I was called in 2008 and asked to be on the board, and I was honored and I was thrilled, and I am really glad I accepted.
Terrific. Well, I am looking forward to your leadership this coming year. So the annual dinner is going to be a big night for you. You're planning to be there, right?
Yes, yeah, we're planning to be there. It is a big night. It's a kind of a nerve-wracking night, but it's always enjoyable. We've been to a few of these now, and always enjoy it. Always like to see the community come out. And I know the board, it's the beginning of a new year, and the board's excited to get started.
Okay, so it's only nerve-wracking for you because you realize that it's when Garrett Ming, who's our outgoing board chair, will pass that gavel on to you, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I thought about a year ago it was a long time, but now it's right around the corner. So, yes, it is a little nerve-wracking, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, your replacement also will be sworn in that night as the chair-elect. Susie Geiger from Occidental Elk Hills will be sworn in. So you only have a year.
Yeah, and I hope it goes as fast as it did this last year.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to accomplishing over the next year?
Well, we last year Garrett started a new vision to relook at some of the things that we've been doing, and maybe start some things that we should be doing. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is the next generation professional that's coming up in our office, and the next generation leader that's coming up in the community and the chamber. So that's right. Going to be a big goal of mine is to gradually and seek out good leaders and mentor them.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that we are looking at launching this year is that Young Professionals Division or Association. Doesn't have a formal name yet, but that was one of the needs identified by the Board of Directors in moving forward, that we really needed to tap into that next generation of leadership. You mentioned that you have young professionals that you're looking to groom as leaders both in your organization and the community, and this Young Professionals Division will do just that. So,
Absolutely.
Yes. So what are some of the things that you're doing within your organization helping the young leadership?
Well, it's interesting because some of the ideas we are trying to implement, we received from programs from the Chamber of Commerce.
Really?
Yes. Simon Bailey, when we visited with him and went through his workshop, he said, we need to mentor them, and it would be a good idea to have career investment discussions. And that rang really loud with me because we haven't been doing that regularly. And I think it's a good idea to talk to these young people and pass on some of our information to them that we've learned over the 20 years in our business. And hopefully we can learn from them what they need to get to that next level.
That's great. Yeah. What else would you like to see, or what are some of your goals for the coming year? Aside from just surviving.
Yeah, well, surviving is a good one, and we have a good staff with you at the helm.
Thank you.
We definitely have a good staff, so we're looking forward to that. Growing the membership is also a goal. We're hopefully coming on to a little better economy, and so I think people are feeling better about membership, and I think if we can take that energy and then bring it to the community, I think we'll have a very successful year.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Now, you talk about the economy turning around. Are you seeing growth? Are you seeing those trends in your own business?
Actually, yes. Yes, we are. We're projecting flat, which it's been good. Flat has been good for the last few years. But with the phone calls and just the inquiries are up. And so we think that that's a good thing. And projecting flat and hoping for better is the way we're going to approach this new year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Danny, thank you so much for joining us today. I personally am looking forward to your leadership over the coming year. I know that staff is excited about it as well. And we hope that you will join us for the Chamber Annual Installation Dinner and Gala. That is taking place Thursday, January 23rd, 5:30. Again, at the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel here in Bakersfield. Cost is $75 per person, $850 for a table of 8. You can reserve your spot. The tickets are going fast. Reserve your spot by calling the Chamber at 327-4421 or logging on to bakersfieldchamber.org. Thank you so much for joining us today for Strictly Business. If there is a topic that you would like for us to cover, or you have a business-related event, activity, or opportunity, please email them to us at production@bakersfieldchamber.org. Time, space permitting, we'll make sure that we get those on for you. I'm Cindy Pollard with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. We're going to see you Monday at 10 a.m. Hope you have a great week.